For our clerk of courts, Michael?
Yes, today's February 28, 2023. We're here to conduct a budget hearing for a clerk of courts. Just a little brief history. It has the clerk of courts has a portion of the general fund, the certificate of title fund, clerk of court computerization fund, and digitalization of court fund. So
You're stealing all my thunder. I was going to do a general info and introductions for everybody here, including members of the public. Just so people know, budget hearings typically are not mandatory in Lake County like they are in other Ohio counties. So if a elected official is doing a budget hearing, it's because they're transparent. I'm going to introduce my management team here. To my left is Jacqueline DeSimone. She is my Chief Operations Officer. To my right is my Executive Assistant and Marketing Director, Taylor Philbach. And to her right is my new Chief Technology Officer, Todd Mumpire. Did I get that last name right? Okay.
Welcome.
I've struggled with that a little bit. As Mr. Matus has indicated, the Clerk of Courts operates 4 different funds. 252, which I know means nothing to you guys, but I'm going to use the number just because it helps me. It's for the title division. 253 is the computerization fund, which is for the legal division. 406 is a special fund that has been designated and set up for digitization digitization operations for digitization of images, also for the legal division, which is over at Victoria Place. And then the general fund account is 127, and that's legal division again. ORC section 2303.06 states that the commissioner shall furnish the clerk of court of common pleas all things necessary for the prompt discharge of the clerk's duties. The good news is that due to increased revenue generation in the title division and sound fiscal management in both divisions, the clerk is in a position to fund more than many other counties, which is definitely less required. You know, we don't require as much from the general fund as a result of that. So let's get into it. I would like to talk about 252 first because I want to talk a little bit about revenue. Revenue and title surplus growth is outstanding and has been outstanding in 2021 and 22 under Clerk Andrews. Again, commissioners pay for brick and mortar, for rent, for clerk of courts operations in most other Ohio counties, but the Lake County Clerk of Courts pays for all of those expenses for 2 locations due to the awesome revenue stream and sound fiscal management. I've also identified another revenue stream. ODNR came to me and asked me to be a registrar of watercraft. So as of March 1st, because of my killer project manager here, we will be, tomorrow actually, because March 1st, we will be beginning to register watercraft. We already title the watercraft and motors, along with everything else that has a motor. But we will now be registering watercraft. Our BRE and marketing efforts are ramping up to expand, and we're going to be expanding our title runner program. You know, we're working on social media channels and online marketing presence, an entire marketing program. Title is one of the divisions of government that you can monetize. We are fully staffed in title and serving the public with smiling faces. We did get a very wonderful, some feedback from Joel DeMar, from one of his employees who ended up having to go to Title Central, and Susan made quick work, and they were just thrilled because of the environment that they found themselves in and how efficient and happy the staff was. So let's talk a little bit about title revenue. The slide that you're looking at, the very first line graph, my numbers are in blue and yellow. You will see that my numbers don't even, nobody touches my numbers from 2018 through 2022. When you look at the numbers in the left, this is millions, and this is what we're running through. This is before I write a check to anybody. This is how much money is coming through our operation. I think we're doing pretty good. The next slide you'll see is the totals, and you'll easily be able to see in this bar graph that, 21 and 22 were definitely banner years here. These are the title revenue, again, annual totals, before I write a check to anyone, the state, the county, or any of that kind of thing. The next slide is the revenue, the net revenue from 2018 to 2022. And again, you'll see the blue and the yellow were way up, higher, way higher than the previous 3 years. And that's a monthly. You're going to see on the next slide the annual net revenue totals. These are in the millions. Again, you will easily see from this bar graph where we're tracking for 2021 and 2022. This is the money that goes into our administrative fund for our 2020, 252 for title. It's what we use to basically run the entire operation. The next slide is passport revenue from 2018 through 2022, and here's where you're going to see us drop a little bit. You'll see, because of COVID. We just have not been able to get the numbers back up because of COVID. The very next slide is our annual passport revenue totals, and you can see, where it dropped like a rock in 2020 because of COVID. I was not able to bring up the numbers in 2021, but you can see that in 2022 I did, and we are really doing a lot of passports this year. I just received word from the woman who's in charge of passports at Title Central. She always brings them all here and puts them in our safe and everything, sends them off in Federal Express. They did tons of passports, the other day. So you're going to see that number come up.
Hey, Faith, do
Yes.
you think that has to do anything with the direct flight to Europe now?
It's possible.
Because you can go to Ireland right from Cleveland.
Right.
So I think that opens up all of Europe.
They were supposed to be doing some direct flights, like even to Iceland and stuff as well. There are several direct flights that they're looking to come. So I do think that has something to do with it. That and the fact that people are starting to get out again. They're just, they're traveling again.
Yeah, I might have to get mine.
I got to get mine. We do passport photos. We got tired of telling people no. The passport photos that were done by everybody else were terrible. So they decided in 2020 to go out and buy equipment and everything to do our own passports. So we've been doing that. You'll be able to see that the passport revenue, where it started in 2020, and then of course, COVID again, so they didn't get, very far off the ground there. But 2021 and even 2022, this is the revenue that we make just by taking pictures for passport photos. We do have to pay sales tax on that, and we need to talk about some of that, mechanism. I need, Mr. Matus, you need to help me. We'll talk about that toward the end, but I'm trying to figure out how to go make that happen. So to talk about title surplus, it remains strong at 5.4 mil. During my tenure so far, I've provided funding for the following county projects: new telecommunicators course of study at the Auburn Career Center, public defenders project for community engagement and outreach program designed to reduce recidivism rates, and the COPS grant. I've provided 2 cycles. I've got 2 more cycles to provide money for that funding. I agreed to a certain amount, over a 4-year period, and happy to do it, because we don't defund the police in Lake County. I've also had to fund clerk operations, and this is a little known thing. I've had to do transfers into Fund 253, which is the computerization fund for the legal. There's never enough money in there. That fund is generated by filing fees. So when times are good, like they were during the Trump years, filing fees are going down because everybody's happy. Anyone who's got a job wants one. Not a lot of, not as much crime, not as much divorce. It's a bellwether. I'm sorry, it just is. You can take the temperature of a people in a township or a city, county, looking at, the rates of crime and various other things. Well, the filing fees went down by about 20%, and the judges, when I came in transition meeting, I heard the judges flat out said, we're not going to help you pay for anything anymore. Prior to Faith Andrews coming in, the judges general division, domestic relations, and even probate paid a portion of the software fees to run my system. That has stopped immediately upon my entering office. So, I mean, there's not enough money in there, folks. I mean, if the filing fees go down for the judges, they go down for me too. And I have no choice, but I have to run those systems. It costs $137,000, I believe, just for 2 applications. That's on base and for Courtview, for licensing and support fees annually. In 2021 and 22, I had to transfer $330,000 from title surplus just so I could pay the bills for the software to run my system. Transfers into Fund 406. This is a digitization project. The set was set up in 2017. It has a shelf life. It ends in 2027. It was set up by funds from title surplus, and to date, $1 million of title surplus has been used for this project. It's going to require funding going forward. I had to spend $100,000 of title surplus so far just to fund it for 2023. It is a digital, and it's a little bit disingenuous, and I'm going to mention this too, bottom line. The project has been mismanaged from the beginning. All of those records were digitized prior to 2017. The only reason that project exists is because no one did a quality check on the back end, and they were bulk scanning. They were not looking at the back end images to make sure that they were good images. And they did this from 2006 through 2017. Started desktop scanning in 2018. It's taking 1 page at a time. Everybody's happy.
Faith, can I interrupt you?
Yes, sir.
For those of us who know what you're talking about, could you explain to those who may not know what you're talking about? You're using a lot of technical terms.
Okay.
You said bulk scanning.
Right. So basically,
go ahead.
What they were doing, what you're doing when you're bulk scanning, you're throwing a bunch of paper, you're just scanning, and you're throwing a bunch of paper. Bulk scanners were kind of crappy back then when they first started. It was taking 1 and 2 pages at a time, so the image wasn't complete. It would be like, let's say it would take the first page, and then the second page would be a combination of 2 and 3, and then it would be 4, 5, 6. You know what I'm saying? They were not quality checking to make sure the scan was good. All right, so the whole reason for this project, folks, is because no one did a quality check when they were scanning those records, and I don't understand what happened. I mean, I would have thought that how many years you go by, you're not going to do a quality check. So we're having to pay for rent for for 3 people to sit in an office and double check images for all of those years to make sure that they are good images. The first year of the project, based on my research, was used just to go through transcripts. That's not digitizing anything. We don't digitize transcripts, we destroy them. They weren't digitizing anything in 2017. After that, when they would go through the images, they were pulling staples and shredding. Why? Call the shred truck. Okay? So when I came in, it took me some time to get a handle on this project. We will all be dead if it continues to go this way before it's done. I am going to have to spend surplus probably and bring in some consultants. They're going to have to come and do it on site unless I have a court order. The judges won't release the record, so it's going to cost us a pretty penny.
Again, I don't want to
Yes,
go
sir.
past this. I appreciate your passion and your thorough understanding of this, but for those who are among us or watching or will be watching, it's about the integrity of the records that
Correct.
you're preserving.
Correct.
You may have 10 documents being scanned at once. At the end, the digital might be 7 documents.
That's correct.
Or a combination of pages, if I
That's
heard
correct.
you correctly. Is it an outside vendor, on staff personnel that were doing this?
Right now, it's my staff.
But at the time that the quality, I'm going to call it quality of the records, who was doing that?
Good question. History's been a little tough for me to get. People aren't talking,
Okay.
and files are light.
So right now your staff is manually going through and comparing the paper to what is on the digital record.
That's correct.
And
And
they're
we can't
checking things
destroy
off.
anything until we make sure that that is a good record.
Okay, and I
So-
apologize for belaboring that, but I wanted it to be made abundantly clear. It's the
Yes.
integrity of the records that's
That's
in
correct.
question.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. So I got to do some serious work with Fund 406, the Digi project, but, you know, I'll fix it. That's kind of what I do. We'll figure it out. And then transfers into Fund 127, the general fund. Through my research, I have discovered that from the period 2012 through 2014, and I've got, you know, records of requests for title transfers, title funds surplus was being used to fund legal salaries. They couldn't even afford to pay all the people they had working there. So I'm establishing basically a pattern here that legal would not survive if it weren't for title surplus. And one of the things that I need to do, that I'm going to try to do, we'll see how well that goes, because of course I have a symbiotic relationship with the judges, how we can reduce costs, you know, maybe for software. I'm considering maybe writing a Supreme Court tech grant to try and do an upgrade from Court View 2 to Court View 3. We'll still host it here locally. But there is a module for imaging built in. It runs runs very well with Court View. We pay $38,000 for OnBase. OnBase is down right now. As my CTO sits here because of this budget hearing, OnBase is down. And I've said this, and I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say it. I was left a Frankenstein system that I had to spend a bunch of money to make work. I would prefer to have something streamlined, something that I know works with Court View. And so we're going to look into some of that kind of stuff. We'll talk with the judges. We'll talk with, you know, court IT. We'll work with all the folks that we need to try to make this, you know, work. But my goal is to reduce costs. I can't make money in legal, okay? You can't. But I can sure try to reduce costs. And that's one of my goals for this coming year. As far as the next slide I'm giving you, and this is just, by the way, from our little Munis application, just to show you what we can do. We can, you know, click the history graph and it automatically, poof, puts it right out there for you, so you don't have to put it into your own spreadsheet, which is pretty groovy. I kind of like it. But you'll see over the course of, you know, 7 years what, you know, surplus has been and, you know, what it is now. You know, it's solid, it's sound. We've got some decent money. As far as what I requested in my budget for 252 and what I received, I'm just letting you know, fuel oil and lubricants, I had requested 10,000. Part of the reason for that is gas has gone up. Things have increased. It's going to be increased. I have 2 vehicles, fleet vehicles. We will be looking to grow our title runner project this year. We've got one, and I want to go further out and take as much business from Cuyahoga County as I can, and we're going to need to run titles to do that. So, but again, I got $5.4 million in surplus we can just allocate. I'm not concerned, but I'm just letting you know.
But at a minimum, this will be a cost neutral, or are you saying this is going to be a costly? It sounds like you're talking about taking surplus to pay this. Yeah, I want to give you an opportunity to be very clear on this. Are you talking startup costs?
No. We've already got the runner project. It's already done. I just want to expand it.
So why are you needing to take money out of surplus?
I wanted $10,000 because we need to have a little bit more money because gas and everything has gone up, and I want to expand the runner project. So the more trips we make, the more gas. I'm just saying I think we'll be okay with what we've talked about here. But I had requested $10,000 for this purpose. If this is not enough based on the expansion of our runner project, then we'll talk about, you know, making an allocation from, you know, the administrative fund, from our revenue, whatever we're bringing in.
But I want to be clear. You're not proposing to do a program that's going to be providing a service at a loss.
Correct.
Okay, want to be real clear on that. It
Correct.
doesn't,
I
it doesn't
mean,
sound like that. So
The
I
amount of
guess-
money that we make when we're running titles out to a dealer, North Coast, the amount of money that we make from that dealer to run titles and to provide them a 24-hour turnaround, that's how we're going to get more business, because Cuyahoga can't do it.
It's 12 dealers, one location.
There you go,
Thank
what
you.
she said.
What
12
she
dealers,
said.
one
On
location.
mic, if you could say those things on mic,
That is 12.
turn your mic on.
Okay.
The button,
There you go.
push the button. There
That
you
is 12 dealers at one location in Independence. So our runner goes from Venture all the way out to Independence every morning.
go. Got it.
And we want more of those dealers
We are
out there.
going to
so
get more.
We are going to get more. So no, it will not be a loss.
And we're also going to get watercraft as well, which is keep on adding to our revenue.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Excellent, excellent. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
that
Taylor.
clarification.
All right, so let's see, what was this, postage item, I'm not sure about that. I mean, the only reason I asked for a little bit more in postage is if you look at the actual for 2022, it's almost $5,000. Again, postage has gone up as well. So we'll see what we do there. I mean, I just based it on the actual. So I'm not sure why, we came down. But, it is what it is. We'll deal with that. And another thing that I noticed here is I had $160 in liability insurance. I was showing 0. We've already spent, $100 of it because we needed it for watercraft bond. So that's where we charged it to. I guess we'll fix it on the back end. But we had to have that bond in place before we could start, doing those watercraft registrations tomorrow. So it is in place. We've confirmed that they did receive the payment. We're good to go. And that's all I got for 252. Do you have any questions before I move on to 253?
Mr. Matus? Gentlemen? Thank you, ma'am. Please proceed.
Okay. Fund 253 is the computerization fund. This is legal. Again, prior to me coming into office, the general division judges and the DR judge shared software expenses. Court view and on-base imaging is the imaging. It's $137,000 annually, and that's just those two programs. We have a bunch of other peripheral programs we use. One is Tab Fusion, which is our file tracking application, so when people check out files, we know where they are, if they actually use that program like they're supposed to. Filing fees are down about 20% from last year, which affects the clerk as well as the judges, so the only difference between me and them is I have title surplus and they know it. The clerk spent $167,000 in 2021 and $279,000 in 2022 just on, running the software. I mean, just the computerization, the technology basically for my operations. And of course, I spent some money for the judges too. Under duress. I did receive some assistance from the judges in 2021 as software licensing and support had to be paid for by the end of 2020, so they had to pay for a portion of that. I did not receive any assistance from the judges in 2022. The chargebacks were rejected, not because I didn't try, I sent chargebacks. The clerk will not receive any assistance from the judges in 2023. Chargebacks have already been rejected. Again, not because I'm not trying. But the bottom line is I'll be paying for all of this stuff moving forward. I am reviewing potential ways to reduce annual software costs. And again, I mentioned Supreme Court Tech Grant, maybe to upgrade to CV3. I will not go into the cloud. Both my Chief Technology Officer and the CIO, Nick Falcone, have indicated they would prefer, and I do agree, that we host locally. I don't like cloud computing for a whole bunch of reasons.
CIO?
Chief Information Officer, Nick Falcone. This is my CTO. They're the same kind of thing. I just chose a different name for my guy.
So Nick Falcone of County IT.
Correct.
Just again, want
Yeah.
to make sure we got
Nick
all the
Falcone
players.
of
I don't have
County-
the scorecard with all the players
sorry.
on it, so.
Don't you know the acronyms, mister?
Decoder ring, married, I just asked lots of questions,
All right. So I'm looking to maybe write a Supreme Court Tech Grant. I've started talking to some of my brethren, my peers who did receive Supreme Court Tech Grants for upgrades. I don't like to reinvent the wheel. I'll be probably using, their language and things of that nature. we're gonna start talking to, once I get back from my trip, we're gonna start to, Todd and I are gonna start talking about some of this stuff. I want to compare the pricing of on-base to the built-in imaging for Court View to see if it's a little cheaper, but the bottom line, I mean, I know it's going to work, okay, because it was built for Court View. On-base has been down over the last month at least 5 times, which means we can't scan, we can't do anything until we figure it out. They're running out of memory. They had to add memory. I can't remember what your solution. We had to ask Court IT today. It is fixed, thank God. But it's problematic, okay? It's disrupting my operations. So we got to try to figure out how we can get this darn thing fixed. As far as 253, I'm happy with everything here budget-wise. I see you guys gave me $30K for equipment. I don't know that we're going to need it, but then I can move that anywhere else I need to. I would love to.
Hold on. I'm going to look over Mr. Matus on that one. That.
He lets me. Well, of course. I will go
Just
through.
wanted to be clear on that.
Listen, I follow the rules around here, okay?
You're not
I
all
really
of-
do. Whatever I need to do, I follow the protocol, the process, the procedures. I run everything up through the SIG file process. I even ran a $90 bill up through SIG file. I make sure I follow the rules around here.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, I'm good with everything. Do you have any questions on 253? Computerization.
Gentlemen, Mr. Matus.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
What? Okay. Moving on to 406. This is the project from you-know-what. The purpose, as I indicated to you, is the quality check of images that were bulk scanned between the years of 2006 and 2017. The fund was set up in 2017 with title surplus funds. $1 million of surplus has been used for this project since 2017. I stated previously, I'm not happy, with the progress of the project at all. For that many years, no way.
And again, just to reiterate, your chief concern is the quality and the integrity of the records.
Correct. Yes. Again, the fund has a shelf life under ORC 5705.13C and expires in 2027. I don't believe it can be expanded. Mr. Matus and I would have to discuss that. Maybe we'd have to bring the prosecutor in, but based on my reading of the Ohio Revised Code, it cannot be extended, period.
So the project has to be wrapped up. That's the end date. Everything has
Correct,
to be done
and
by
which
that
is
date
precisely
certain.
why I'm losing it, okay? Because I'm going to have to bring in people. There is no way it will be wrapped up by the end of the shelf life. No way, and it's already out of money, folks. I've got to fund it every year with surplus.
So when you say shelf life, that in my terms, we're talking deadline. Your deadline is
My deadline
this
is
date.
2020. Our deadline is 2027. Otherwise, something else is going to have to be done. I've got some ideas. I'd love to, discuss that with the commissioners.
Well, you can't back that shredder truck up. That just won't work.
No. And the judges don't want me to, one of the things that I suggested to do, because we do have a retention schedule, that you can, destroy records within a particular 30-year period under the civil records. I thought, maybe we can go ahead and just destroy those records and I don't have to worry about digitizing them. Nope. The judges said flat out, that's a hard no. So they want me to keep everything. And right now, space is cheap, right, Todd? Space is cheap. But just people need to understand as you move forward, maybe it's not going to be one day. And you might have to actually manage the records that you have. You might actually have to follow your records retention schedule because you're going to run out of room. I mean, that's part of what we had to deal with today with OnBase. We had to give more memory, give more, space, terabyte here or there, to make sure that the application runs. And again, space is cheap now, but you know how it goes. Gas was cheap 3 years ago. Any questions on Digi? No? Okay. Now let's go to the general fund, 127, COC General. If you look at the history of, how much has been spent, you'll see that I've been able to reduce the budget every year since taking office. 2019, 1597, 870, 2020, 1645, 160, and in 2021, it was 1631, 420, and 2022, 1517, 729. The salaries request, as you can see, was quite different, now than it was at the beginning. It's because the salaries request changed because the staffing makeup changed. Dues, the other little thing that's different is I need to ask for $3,500 in professional dues and memberships, because the dues for my professional association, the Ohio Clerk of Courts Association, went up slightly in 2023. It's like $3,200. So I'm going to need another couple hundred. Or I'm sorry, that's what you did give me. Okay, never mind. I think I'm good.
That was easy.
Wait a minute, it might be
Let's close the hearing quick.
I'm thinking it might be 33. It is 33. So we do need a little bit more. Sorry. Okay, so I'm funding, and just also so you know, I take care of my general fund. Mr. Matus and I work quite hard at trying to do those things so that less comes out of the general fund, more comes out of these other funds. I am funding half of the following salaries out of title. Half of my chief operations officer salary comes out of title and half comes out of legal. Half of my chief technology officer salary comes out of title and legal, so I can split those. At this point, Taylor, I could take half out, but I've chosen not to because she focuses mostly on title. That's where she's spending most of her time, the marketing and the various projects I want her to do. So I'm taking it all out of title at this point, saving the general fund her salary. I'm also taking the chief operating officer's munis backup, half and half, because she's her backup. She pays all the bills for both title and legal, and the backup is doing, it helps out with that. She's also my backup and her backup for budgets. I'm 3 deep now. I don't ever want to go through what I had to go through in December. Only one person knew how to do payroll, and she walked out. And I had to learn payroll with Taylor here, and we managed to get her done, and we got it done perfectly. Now Jacqueline is doing payroll, and she's got it down. The 3 of us know how to do payroll. That'll never happen again. I've been talking about cross-training for my staff since I came in. Continuity of operations is very important to me. We are working on that, and no one will ever be able to interrupt the continuity of operations of the clerk's office again, based on what we've done. There is one position open in the legal division, but I'm holding off filling it for now, because I think I've got some, look, one of the things that I'm going to talk about this at a commissioners meeting coming up, I have been working closely with Jobs and Family Services to obtain candidates, and they are really matching and bringing some good candidates to us. We have hired a lot of folks from Jobs and Family Services.
Lacey Cole.
Yeah,
Lacey Cole.
Yeah, so we're doing a great job, and I am going to talk about that. We've got some new folks that are just, top quality candidates, and they're ramping up quick. And I really think that we might be able to get by without having to hire that person. We'll see. That's one of the reasons I'm holding off. That and the fact that I'm going to have a mutiny on my hands with my poor trainer. She's training 3 people at once. I got to give her a little bit of a break. If we have to bring somebody else in, we will, but we're going to give her a little bit of a break to get those 3 people. But they're ramping up quick. I couldn't be more pleased. And I did share that information with Jobs and Family Services. So, okay. Do you have any questions about 127 before I get into some line items that need to be added to 252?
So just to put a
The general fund.
Just to put a little finer point, you mentioned Job and Family Services.
Yes, sir.
So you've had some good success working with them, good quality people,
Yes.
success stories.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's just, again,
Yeah,
Worth highlighting.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely. I mean, and anyone who isn't using Jobs and Family Services for their open recs, they're foolish. Very foolish, in my opinion. It's a great resource. Why wouldn't you use it? Okay, any more questions on that?
Gentlemen, Mike?
No? Okay.
Oh, by the way, notice I said gentleman, then I said Mike.
You poor man. All right. So, watercraft registration revenue, we need a line item. Whoa, I just knocked off the little doohickey here.
Turn the mic
Sorry.
off. The entertainment component of this meeting is definitely helping. As a sound guy at the
Listen.
church, I hate it when they kind of, I'm going to put that little spit shield thing, grind it on.
So, we're going to need to, I want to track this watercraft revenue, right? So I'm going to need a watercraft revenue line item in 252 so that we can bring that puppy in and start tracking that. Sales tax expense item, this is an interesting thing. We have to pay sales tax on photos. That's considered retail, on passport photos that we do. They started collecting sales tax on passport photos in 2020 when they did them. Nobody paid anything. Okay, that should have been handled in 2020 under the previous clerk. It was not. So, one of the first things that I started to do when I came in, and I did send the project to someone else who failed to bring it in. After he left, I turned it over to Taylor. Taylor and I both, and I can tell you, attest, we're frustrated beyond belief. We've been going back and forth between the prosecutor and the auditor on how to pay this tax. I have Ms. Kelly put the tax up for the 2020 that she collected. She moved it into the administrative fund for 252, so that will have to be allocated, but we're going to need a sales tax expense line item. And that money, and we'll tell you exactly how much because we have tracked it down to the penny, needs to be put back into the sales tax line item, or into the sales tax line item, and then we'll move the money that I have in the checking account, because we've just left ours in the checking account. I'm going to write one check. This is how I want to pay it, like I pay everything else. I write a check to the treasurer, for this or that. The treasurer pays the county. The treasurer pays the state. Why can we not, it can't be that hard. Other people do it. Other clerks have done it. The last thing I heard from the auditor is you can pay through the Ohio Business Gateway yourself. No, I can't. I can't even get a form to pay the tax because it's all done through the gateway. I need your help, guys, to get this tax paid. Please.
So, okay, just to be clear on this, so the passbook photos, that the revenue associated with that is taxable. You have been collecting the sales tax. It just has not been turned over to the state. Has anybody made the state aware of this? And if they have or have not, we need to find out if they're willing to waive, because I know as a business, if I don't pay the sales tax,
I'm sure they'd be
They get
willing to
cranky
waive
pants.
it. We have documentation proving what we've been trying to do to try to figure out how to get it paid. We've got the money, but all the really, really, really smart people running things haven't been able to give me a mechanism on how to pay it. So, hopefully they'll waive it.
and the monies have been kept in a separate fund, they're not commingled, they're not
Correct.
being used for other purposes.
Correct, it's separate. And we've got a very detailed spreadsheet on how much we've collected every month for the last two and a half years.
Well,
Okay.
let's just hope they don't have $5 million worth of fines, we'll be good.
There won't be $5 million worth of fines. There better not be. I'll have to drive down there and talk to him myself. All right. So, that's it. I just need some help on the back end, Mr. Matus, with getting that stuff handled in 252. You just let me know when you've got some time. I'll touch base with you when I get back from Raleigh. Does that work?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any more questions or comments or anything?
Hold on, going through my notes. Gentlemen, you got anything?
Mr. President,
Sir.
so thanks, Faith, for all they do with the COPS grant and those kind of things. They're well-meaning and go a long way for the county. And the software, that's always been a bane in my existence, because with technology, it's kind of like they get you in to use it, then you can't live without it, and it always lets you down. Then they charge you more and more to go forward. But when we talked with the judges too, they're looking at all different kind of software and things too. So continue to reach out to see if there's anything you can do together. I know some of the language was the same. I'm not really technical, so it's one of those things. I know we pay a lot of money up front, and then we pay a continued fee every year to keep it running. But I don't know how to help you with your digitalization. That sounds like a mess. I know from running a city, there's a basement full of documents, there's an attic full of documents, and I tried to clean that up in my 6 years as mayor, put a little dent into it, but we at least have schedules now and those kind of things going forward for records destruction. Probably nothing like the number of records that you see, though.
You should
So,
see the room. It is unbelievable.
I can only
You have
imagine.
to take a field trip over there whenever, if you would like. I'd be happy to show you.
I always threatened a broken pipe or so.
Well, we do have, here's one of the biggest issues, and I've been talking about this for a couple of years, because I've got records in the bell tower, and that's free for you guys. But the bell tower is as leaky as a sieve, and one of the worst things for records, court records, any records, is water. And I'm very concerned, and I've been very concerned about that. You should see that place up there. It's covered with garbage bags every time it pours rain. It's going to be this week. We got to go up there to make sure our stuff isn't going to, it's ridiculous. We need to get this, and it's and it is. I've got maybe one or two people that are willing to go up there. It's very unsafe for my staff to be going up and down there. I've been asking for 2 years, guys, is there a building somewhere in the county that's not being used? It's got to be a basement or a first floor, because of the sheer weight. There's no way we can put it anywhere but the first or the basement. It's got to be dry, obviously. But what I have done, and I did talk to Rick yesterday, Mr. Boyd, and I'm asking him for a quote for 5,000 square feet of space at Victoria Place, so that I can take the records that are in the 2,300 square space that I share with the prosecutor and the probate court, and move them into the 5,000 square feet, and then take everything from Johnson Apartments and the bell tower and move, so that I'm trying to centralize all my records into one, central location. Then I want to take and move my digi people, just the desks, nothing serious, just think of it as a record center. The 3 desks in there, and they continue to do the work. The files are all going to be in the same room, because right now they got to go down the thing and carry stuff back, and it's right there. Then we don't have to pay the rent for Suite 125. We're done with paying rent for Johnson Apartments. I've asked him to give me a quote for 10 years. I know you freak out about that, but we've had the big space for 20. And we do get a break if we lock in for longer. And then another one for 5. So I'm asking him for 2. And he said he would get with me. We're going to talk about things next week. Even though I'm out of town, I still am working. We're going to have some telephone discussions, and I'll let you know what we come up with, but I'll be forwarding that. I'm trying to wrap that up so we can get the quote, and then I can start maybe, making a moving some stuff, and trying to at least reduce the cost of that operation so that I don't have to pay the rent for the darn thing anymore. Because you guys have to pay to store records, the commissioner. You know that, right? You do. Yes. Look at him.
Going somewhere with this?
Yes, because I'm gonna move everything in, and you guys get to pay for all the storage of records, and my digitization operation still goes on. Of course, I'm gonna have to fund it with title surplus to bring in some folks, but I'm trying to figure out a way to reduce costs, as much as I can. Like I said, I can't make money in legal. You can't do it. But I sure can try to reduce costs where I can. Okay?
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess just fleshing out this digitization of records. So at some point, could you share with us what's been spent on it to date? What's your projection to the future commitment's going to be?
1 million. I already shared that with you. 1 million of title surplus has been spent on that operation to date.
And how much more do you expect in order to bring closure to this? That's the rest of my
Okay,
question.
I'm sorry, I should have shut up and let you finish.
Yeah, but I keep trying. It's
Okay,
okay. I'm
I'll
patient.
come up with the part two. I'll come up with
Part two's a biggie because we gotta.
It is a darn biggie.
If $1 million has been spent and we're not a fraction of the way through, and the quality,
You
it
can't really
sounds
count
like-
that, though, John, and I'm sorry, Commissioner Hamercheck.
It's okay. It's John. You're good.
Because it was mismanaged from the beginning. You can't go by that. You just can't. It was a waste of money, in my opinion. I'm sorry.
So-
I'm going to
so-
say that we wasted $1 million.
Okay, and that's where I'm tracking on. Okay, so we need to find out at some point what it's going to take to bring
To fix
closure
it?
to this.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do. Working. I
And
will be
again,
working
the
on that.
integrity of the records.
Yes, sir, absolutely, and we have to. I mean, look, if the digital record is the court record, and it is, we have a local court rule that says that, it's the official record. And then we've got House Bill 567 coming down the pike that will be effective April 5th of this year, that also states the same thing. So regardless of whether the local court decides that that is official, the legislature has. And they're pushing everyone to start to digitize records. That, it's called the Stewart, we worked with the Stewart legislation is what we called it, but it's House Bill 567. So we got to deal with it, for sure.
Fair. Okay, so then the other question that I don't know that we really got into, obviously building replacements and/or renovations. I know you've been talking about that, and historically, now I'm the one hitting the microphone. Great, talking with my hands here. Where are we at with that?
Renovations for what?
Well, there's been discussion of other properties. I know you've got that lease out on the west side.
I would like to move Tidal West. I think it is, with the way that real estate is now, I just can't see us buying a building. I'm cheap. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to pay the cost. What real estate's going for now is ridiculous. It's stupid. We missed our window. I don't know what happened, along with all the other major projects that we were working on. I'm not sure what happened there. I don't know what they've done with that building. You know, it was a cash, $400,000. That's ridiculous. The building was going to have to be razed to the ground. There was no way that we would spend the people's money on that. No way. So I'm continuing to look. I'm thinking about trying to rent. I do want to move them because we're going to get hammered on that lease. I would like to try to rent I got to stay as far west as I can because, I want to keep taking business from Cuyahoga. I can't move in closer. It's just not going to behoove us to do that. I'd like to get them out of that area because it's kind of unsafe. I mean, I pay $40,000 a year just for security detail of Wycliffe cops, folks.
No, that's a reoccurring theme. Do you want to explain that and the type of activity that takes place in the parking lot? I think
Yeah.
that's worth explaining.
There are all kinds of shenanigans. They're constantly asking us to pull tape from our, security cameras and everything. We've looked at we're looking at a couple of, I'd like to have a local landlord. I want to work with only local people. They care about us. They want us there. The people that we're working with now are in Texas and they don't care, although she's from Texas, so she's been able to use her Texas charm and y'all to get us some help when we need it. But I prefer to work with local vendors. I mean, what I'd love to see is a building owned by Zaps out there because he's our landlord for Central and I couldn't be happier. If he's got some property out there, boy, I'd rent from him in a heartbeat. But so we're talking to him a little bit about it, and we'd have to build out for sure. But when I go, I've got a built-in tenant. I'm taking the West BMV with me. He comes with me. He says, you stay, I stay, you go, I go, where you go. So that's not a bad thing. I've already got a tenant in Central. So we're offsetting that rent, which is a good thing.
Can I give a plug for a nice safe place across from the police department in Willowick?
Sure, just send me the information, or have whoever.
The owners of Shoregate are Ohio, but they're not local, but there's North Shore Mall there
But at
too.
least there's a state.
Yep, and they're
I mean,
very good to work with. So.
Even staying in the same state is better than, Texas. Not that Texas isn't a good place. I lived in Dallas for 3 years, but it's a little too far. I can't get in the car and drive down there and have a, come to Jesus meeting with the landlord about anything.
Yeah, when our water's leaking and we don't know where it's coming
Microphone,
from.
microphone.
You can say if the water's leaking. I was just stating, like in Wickliffe, our water was leaking and we had very high bills. And Jacqueline was trying to get a hold of our landlords that are in Texas that take a couple days to get back to you when they're out of state. Why is our water bill so large? I don't know, check here, check there. That's your guys' responsibility. We pay you to do this. We are your tenants. We're leasing from you. So that was something that Jacqueline had to find out, and it was hundreds of dollars.
The biggest issue I had with the Texas people was this past year. Our air conditioning gave up the ghost. Our people here at the county kept that thing running and got as much life out of that bad boy as they could. But then it gave up the ghost, and that was that, and they were going to have to do something about it. Under the lease, they were responsible for replacing that unit. They hemmed and hawed, and then they wanted me to sign an addendum to the lease because they didn't, they would have to. I'm like, are you kidding me? First of all, it expires the end of this year, and the lease is a lease. I'm not going to sign an addendum just because you actually had to spend money. So they drug their feet and forced my girls, my deputies, they're not my girls, they're my deputies. They forced my deputies in the West to go through one of the hottest parts of the summer with no AC. That made me mad. You don't do people like that. And, so, and then the lease, when we negotiated it, the prosecutor said, they were not very willing to cooperate. Triple net is, something that's on the table. We're going to get hammered. We need to get out of there. We need to get out of
I
there.
want to do a little golf clap for Lou from Buildings and Grounds, who has been there for all of our needs.
They have been.
They have.
They're very good.
Just for those who may not be clear on this, maintenance was the responsibility per your agreement, was the responsibility of the county. Replacement of the equipment if it became not serviceable.
Mm-hmm. That was part of their.
And that was one of their dispute questions was it or was it not serviceable?
It was not. I mean,
I'm tracking with you on that. I'm just saying that was the question.
I guess. I don't know. And then they screwed up when they put the stuff in and our roof leaks. Every time it really rains, we've got buckets underneath the desk. It's crazy.
Computers.
It's crazy.
Are you sure that isn't part of the humidification system? At
We're not talking about the basement. We're talking about, and legal. We're talking about the West.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the bell tower either. We're talking about
We
West.
only have nature stone in the basement because it's prone to flooding, and I've actually seen standing water flowing down like a little stream in a waterfall in between the tunnel, down the tunnel between the court and the courthouse and the clerk. It's crazy. When it's bad. Man.
Worm surfing. Okay. So one of the other things that you'd had challenges with and full-time equivalents, what I'm looking for, munis, when you had to take over more responsibilities from the munis and your purchase orders and all that, did that get sorted out? Did you have to add staff, reallocate people for that?
Well, my executive assistant, the person who did it, ran screaming from the room. Literally, I lost her. That was the break for her because she had so much on her plate. And then when they launched it, the beginning of the year, when everybody's trying to close out the year before and do, it was the worst launch of software I've ever seen in my life. And I used to work for Intuit, for heaven's sakes. They know how to launch a software application. But a lot of work has been transferred. I'm just saying, it's the way it goes because it's all digitized. What you used to be able to sign a sheet, fill out a sheet, sign a form, dump it into an internal envelope and send it on its way. The auditor would enter it into the system. Now, she enters it into the system and everybody's got to have a desktop scanner because everything has to be scanned in. That takes time. So yes, there is more work for my staff. I have had to... I have a backup, Terry, but Terry Connolly was the only person that was doing it after I lost Kathleen, and I had to pull her for a period of time. I had to pull her out of rotation for cash drawer until she learned, because she couldn't do it all. And one of the things she was hired to do was inmate collections, and that has been spotty because she hasn't had time because Munis comes first. Jacqueline, I know it's going to take her probably 6 months. She says 3, and I love that attitude. But 6 months to probably get this under her belt to where it's just like, second nature. But it's a bear. It is absolutely a bear. So I would say yes. I mean, we've got to spend way more man hours doing this stuff.
So again, staffing's been one of the concerns that gets circulated. And so again, you brought your own IT guy here, Chief Technology Officer. The judges did offer to say you can use court IT under the control of the common pleas. If you could give us a little history.
It's a jurisdictional issue, okay? Because I need to have someone that's accountable to me. The person running my system has to be accountable to me. Court IT is under the exclusive control of the judges. 2 hours after the Supreme Court said, no, I'm sorry, denied on their motion for reconsideration, Judge Lucci basically said court IT is ours. It's under our exclusive control. Well, if I don't manage somebody that manages my system, I just can't have that. That would never be tolerated in the paper world. It cannot be tolerated in the digital world. I need someone who's accountable to me that's managing my system. I came into office in breach of contract, of the county credit card contract in both divisions, and that was intentional. It took me 6 months or more to get spun out of that contract and to keep us from getting sued, thanks to the help of the prosecutor. Mr. De Leon busted his hiney on that. He did a great job. We did a good thing for the county because the liability was absolute. There was an exclusivity clause in the contract. And they started testing and running things through.
Start at the beginning. You're assuming that everybody knows exactly what you're talking about. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Start at the beginning.
All right. The county decided to select Point and Pay to take credit cards. That was only one vendor, and there was an exclusivity clause. Both the former clerk and Judge Lucci's office signed up for Point and Pay. Ms. Kelly actually purchased credit card machines that never were deployed. I have emails basically between Frank and at Point and Pay. They were talking about integrating it into CourtView, and then nothing ever happened. And then all of a sudden they started e-filing. Well, how does that happen? Well, how that happens is you breach a contract intentionally, and you set up a PayPal account, and you run your public money through the PayPal account, and then you get a 1099, and then you change the PayPal account to be
rewind. A business PayPal account, a personal PayPal account?
I believe it was a personal PayPal account because she got a 1099 that year and freaked out. I think she changed it to a business PayPal account later, but again, she was still using her Social Security number. Do you know what that means? That means she could have taken every bit of the money that ran through that county. She could have taken all of it. It's a huge security risk. When I came in, I refused to do that. I got a government PayPal account. What I wanted to do was get 5 Point, change to 5 Point because that's the solution. And I was told by the prosecutor that I couldn't do that because I would be in breach of contract. And I said, well, gentlemen, they're taking PayPal now. They're already in breach. What now? Then I found out that in 2017, a contract was signed with LexisNexis, putting that division in breach as well. We could have been sued, the county could have been sued for every transaction that was run through Equivant's CourtView from 2015 on, and everything that was run through Title from 2017 with credit cards. And that can be pretty pricey. I showed you the numbers of how much money we generate in Title. Millions. I saved this county millions of dollars. You're welcome.
So staffing, I know that's going to be an issue. We're looking, obviously, staffing, future needs. What do you foresee, short-term, long-term?
We're good. I mean, like I said, I'm trying really hard not to have to hire somebody else in legal. I think we're going to be able to get through it, but I'm not sure. But I'm holding off on replacing that person. We're fully staffed in Title, and I'm not going to hire anybody else until we bring in more business. I'm one of those people, I'm not a Field of Dreams person. You got to give me the contract and then I'll build it.
Okay, and then you did, certificate of title. You did talk about the numerous surpluses.
Yep.
Always appreciated. COPS grant in particular, I was thrilled that you got on board early when we were in negotiations with Painesville Township in particular. They were the prototype. Other townships came on board. They didn't quite buy in as much as they could have, but hey, they stepped up. They did. Painesville Township went with 3, Perry Township went with 2, Concord Township went with 1, Leroy Township went with 0. That's and we were just working with some base numbers. I know that Mr. Medes has programmed whatever the cost escalations is each year, but as a base, it was $125,000 a year times 6. That's $750,000 a year. That's very generous, very, very much appreciated. And again,
You're welcome.
public safety is huge.
It is. It's a big economic development driver too. People are not going to open businesses if they're not safe.
One of the needs that was seen in the county, though, was a training facility for law enforcement proficiency. You'd seen the vision of that. There was talk of assisting at $350,000. We were looking at public-private partnerships, prosecutor's
Yeah,
office.
unfortunately, that didn't work out.
They couldn't quite make it work, but the sheriff stepped up.
Yep.
Facility out at the landfill. So this is the part where I shake you down for $350,000.
You're going to shake me out.
So if you could see your way clear to helping us with that, that would be appreciated. But
I have somebody else has come to me with another one too. We'll have to talk about it. But I'll take a look.
Sure. I just want to get that commercial in there while we're all singing
Okay.
Kumbaya. You're still smiling, so I figured now's the chance to
Yeah.
pounce here. It's like, oh.
Well, like you said, like I told you though, I'm going to have to fund some of my own operation with surplus because, there's never enough money in computerization fund, and that digitization needs some serious help. So, and, we're turning and burning and making a bunch of money. We're going to make even more, so don't worry about it. But, I'm frugal. I got to be frugal,
There you
right?
go.
I spend the people's
Yes,
money
ma'am.
like it's my money. 'Cause it is.
Yay. So.
I'm a public servant first and foremost.
Thank you. Gentlemen, anything? Mr. Medes, anything, sir? Okay, well, thank you for your time, Mr. Medes. If you want to close us out.
This just concludes the Clerk of Court's budget hearing for 2023. We'll have one more at 3 o'clock. Looking forward to it.
Oh, bless you.
He does not.
Good job, Mr.
Matus
Mayor.
used to love me.
Oh, good heavens. In case I haven't already said this, no decisions will be made until all budget meetings are completed. Again, no decisions will be made until all budget meetings are completed. Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Yeah, usually I sneak that in 2 or 3 times, and, I can't swear that I did, so